make sure everything's okay, nothing, doesn't need any work before putting it away. Got a rattle, I'm trying to figure out what it is, but kind of hard on a car that is this loud. Alrighty, let's go back here.
I'm Dave Grainger. I'm the president of the Guild of Automotive Restorers, a restoration company that's been in business for over 30 years. We have restored over 2,500 cars, trucks, and other vintage vehicles. If you're curious about what goes on behind the scenes of a large restoration shop, join us at the Guild's Classics.
Alright, number one step is check the antifreeze and make sure the strength is up to par where you want it. Let's just have a look here. We suck up some antifreeze in our trusty antifreeze tester. And it says minus 34 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a pretty well a 50-50 mix of water and antifreeze will give you that reading.
We use a 50-50 mix of antifreeze. It raises the boiling point of the coolant so that your car will run cooler all year round. So running it in the summer is, there's no sense of just running water. Antifreeze boils at a higher temperature, so the 50-50 mix gives you that minus 35, minus 40 range, and it makes it run cooler in the summer, and it protects it in the winter from freeze up.
If you do test it and you find it's only good to minus 10 or 0 for matter, anyway, whatever it is, you have to add some pure antifreeze to the system. You might have to draw some of the coolant that's in there now out, so you have room to put the pure antifreeze in. And depends what your strength is to put 4 or 5 liters, whatever it's going to take to bring the thing up to minus 34. So you'd have to put the antifreeze in and run the engine to make sure that it's all mixed up and distributed throughout the system. And double check it after you've run it.
So basically, fuel stabilizers, there's many different brands. Ron has his favorite.
I like this stuff.
I use it as well. There's a bunch of different ones on the market. And it's basically read the instructions, know how much fuel is in there, and it's a good idea to bring your fuel level up before you store it, and then put the full blast of what is recommended on the can into the fuel tank, run it, get it through the system, and then when you park it, then you know that your gas isn't going to be going bad, your carburetor is going to be covered, and you're going to start it up in the spring and it's going to work the way it should. A big bottle may cost you $15. To have your carburetor taken off, rebuilt, have your gas tank taken out and drained because it's all gummed up, is going to be way more costly. And we never know. Sure, we say where our cars will be stored for 3 or 4 months, but in reality, you never know what life's going to throw at you. It could be stored for longer. Fuels today break down faster, so the stabilizer does keep them up, keeps them to where they should be for their octane ratings, and it really helps keep the system clean. Every time you have to take a part off a car, it costs you money. Every time you need something clean. So when life throws, a curveball and your car's sitting there for an extra amount of time, you really don't have to worry about it. You know the stabilizer's in there. You know you've run it through the whole fuel system, and that's going to give you an added bit of safety. It's one of those things that you just want to do on a regular basis. Anytime a car that sits for more than 30 days, it should have stabilizer in it. It's going to help things from breaking down. If you go through the routine, every year, then you know that your car is going to start, it's going to run, that you're not going to have any issues with freeze up or anything else. So, that's the main thing is it's the consistency of it and the way it's stored. We also, do the tire pressures, make sure that everything's greased, everything's gone over, and it's works. Everything's ready to go for spring.
This car's got a big gas tank in it, so I'm going to dump this whole can in. That'll cover us. You can't really put too much of this stuff in. It won't hurt anything. So in it all goes.
So the next big thing is the battery. What to do with it, when you're storing the vehicle. Everybody's got a different way of doing it. A battery maintainer, or charge them, and take them and store them in a cool, dry place. you know, up off the ground so that moisture doesn't get to them and cold doesn't get into them. Or, you know, or leave them in the car fully charged. It all depends on, you know, where you are again.
Yeah, like I said, you're only in Ontario here. What are we putting the cars away for? 4 months, 4.5 months. So, you know, a fully charged battery can sit for 4.5 months in the cold and not discharge completely. For sure, a trickle charger to keep them up every month or so, or one of the maintainers, won't hurt.
You know, I like to start my things up, you know, once during the winter type of thing or twice. And Ron likes to leave his stuff, you know, because he's already winterized it. He knows what he has, and you know, when he goes in the spring, he knows it's going to fire up anyway. But you know, it's just personal preference at that point.
If you have an older battery, you can get a battery tester. So you'll suck up some battery acid, and it'll read the specific gravity of the battery acid, so you can tell what state of charge it's in by that. But modern batteries are sealed. You can't even get in to use a battery hydrometer.
Okay, so what we can do is, I mean, check the voltage on it. You know, after you run it, it's going to be up to charge. The alternator's working. It should be up to charge. There's 2 batteries here. It should be at about 12.6, 12.7. It's 12.64, so that's right up to where you wouldn't have to worry about it. So to test washer fluid, same type of idea. Have a hydrometer, and you suck up the fluid, and it gives you what it's good to. So it's right in between the minus 25 and minus 60. So this is good to minus 40. So your windshield washer fluid won't freeze during the winter either. Get some nice fresh oil in it for winter. And here we go. You want to see this, Ron?
Yeah.
I'll prime the filter when I put it on too. Well, what we're going to use is a special formulated oil for hot rods. It's a 10W40. It's a synthetic, so it's a great oil for this car. You know, it doesn't break down under pressure, lasts a lot longer. When they go through it and they specifically design it for hot rods, for people, you know, for you know, high performance engines and things, that's what you want to use for sure. And with this one also, we're using a factory filter because he likes to keep the car, you know, up to factory specifications. So we're using a genuine filter on it. Filters are a big deal when you come to cars. The cheap filters don't have the same amount of paper turns in them. They're, you know, may not have the proper backflow. They're mass produced. They're all mass produced, but there's, you know, the thing is the higher end of filter you use, the better it is for your car, the better filtration, and the less breakdown of it as well. You never save any money by using cheap oil. We also want to check the transmission fluid, make sure it's up. We want to check the rear end fluid, make sure it's up and clean. And this is the time of year to do it. It's being put away so that, you know, in the spring, you pull it out and trouble-free driving is what you want to get. Right now with these, with the older cars, if you're not putting very many miles on it, you're doing a seasonal oil change. You know, something like this Shelby Cobra, you know, it doesn't get driven on a daily basis. So on the standard transmission, what you do is you take the plug out, stick your finger in, and it should be right up to the level of your finger. And then you have the nice clean oil, no dirt, no deposits, and so that should be fine, and there's no leaks or anything else on the transmission. So we can put this plug back in, tighten it up, and move on to the rear end. It's nice and clean. There's nothing in it. There's nothing on the magnet here either. So that is good as well. Rag under it. There we go. Put in a drain pan so that we can drain it out and then send the oil out to be recycled, send the filter out to be recycled. Then we're going to prime the filter because it's a remote system. What you want to do is add the oil to it. I mean, this one sits straight up. So if you have one that goes on sideways, you can't prime them. But with this one, with the remote oil filter housing, we're going to prime it. Gets the oil pressure up right away. And since it's the factory Ford 427 in it, then we're putting the Motocraft factory Ford filter back on. I mean, I come from, you know, background with a bit of diesel experience as well, so I mean, you always prime the filters on that, avoid a dry start. If there's no oil in the filter when you start on a system like this, that means you have all these hoses that drain back down and out into the pan, and when you start it, it has to build the oil pressure up, get through the lines, get through to here, and build the oil pressure, you know, and by priming it, that's what you do. You get there's no mysteries about it. And one thing I see a lot of is over tightened filters. You know, the instructions on them say bring them to touch and then give them 3/4 to a turn afterwards. I mean, that's pretty much all you need. It's you know, I give them a bit of a feel, and you get used to it. But you know, it should be snug. But you know, you don't have to put the wrench on it again and tighten it. That's a lot of oil. Yeah, that's a full 9 it took. Yeah, so we're gonna start it and see where it settles to. Full 9 liters, prime the filter, fire it right up, had instant pressure. Right on the button. Maximum is 35 PSI is maximum pressure on them, so that's pretty much what I'm going to put in them for the winter. You know, this car here, because they're radial tires, and radial tires run cup to the road, so the center's actually a little bit higher. You know, you're running probably about 30 to 32 pounds. Most cars have their, you know, suggested tire pressures on the inside of the driver's door, but with these ones here, you know, it's pretty much, you know, we'd probably run 28 to 32 pounds in them in the summer. As you're driving down the road in the summer, the tires heat up, and they actually, you know, increase in pressure. So, you know, we just take them down a little bit, or take them up a little bit in the winter. Well, the importance of your tire pressure in the winter is, you know, if you're sitting on a cold floor or in a garage, that, you know, I mean, it's not even that cold, but they, you know, it's better to have the pressure in them.
If you're leaving the car for anything over, like if you're going to put it in extended storage for a couple of years, you might want to jack the car up and put it on stands and get the tires off the ground, let everything relax, the suspension relax. But for the few months we put our cars away here in Ontario, I just drive mine into the garage and shut it off. Yeah. Now, another thing that I recommend that you do if you have a car like this, the Cobra really doesn't have any weather strip or door weather strips to worry about, but this Corvette certainly does. And all through the door you have your weather stripping here. And it gets hard and dries out over time. But you can buy products that you rub on, spray on, or rub on all the door rubbers that keep them soft and clean, and longevity, it keeps them lasting longer. Because you'll actually see on some of them that are old, they'll start to rub the paint right off the car where they shut, so where they touch the paint. So it's a good idea to keep your weather strips cleaned and lubed with many products on the market you can find to do that job. So I guess we'll do a little recap here on maintenance, or to put a car away for the winter. For sure, check the antifreeze, make sure it's up to strength, or you're not going to freeze your block and crack it and cost you lots and lots of money to replace your engine block. Change the oil in the filter. Make sure your windshield washer, because that's another thing that can freeze and cause you trouble. Ice is bad for sure. It'll expand and crack and wreck things. Tires, your storage,
Stabilizer.
Your stabilizer.
Your fuel. Keep the gum out of your carburetors. It's an important step, and give it that last run before you put it away. Make sure your battery's up to charge, and use a maintenance unit on it, or, you know, whatever you prefer. Everything else is like, it's your choice on how to do it. But you know, for the main parts, the things we went over, is the way we do it. We make sure that the customer's going to be problem free in the spring.
The last thing you can pretty well do is wash and wax the car. You don't want to put the car away dirty. Now this car's filthy. There's all bugs all over the front of it where the customer's been driving the car and it hasn't been washed. So this thing needs a good wash and put it away, and a cover on it, and put it away for the winter.